Hi, I'm Janvi.
And I'm Mahima. We are working on desexualization of disabled people living in urban India. Sexuality is an integral part of being human. It is how we understand our identity, relationships, consent, and more. But in India, sexuality is an uncomfortable and dishonorable topic. From controlling public expressions of love and desire to strongly opposing even basic sex ed in schools, India resists talking about sexuality even in a positive light. When something like sexuality that is so innately human can be so commonly suppressed, it gets almost completely dismissed when it comes to a marginalized community.
In India, disabled community faces a lot of discrimination. Influential religious discourses see disability as a result of past sins and disabled people as sinners. Although disability rights acts in India and USA came around the same time, the lack of proper implementation of laws in India has kept disabled at least priority. They are still fighting for basic human rights like dignity and social inclusion.
Disabled people are seen as lesser humans. Consequently, their sexual needs and characteristics are dismissed. Desexualization has had long term damaging effects on the Indian society. For example, non disabled feel they are lowering their standards by dating a disabled person. 41% disabled remain unmarried. They are 7 times more likely to be victims of sexual abuse. Disabled women suffer higher rates of abuse, forced sterilization, and abortion. For our project, we are focusing on visible disabilities, where desexualization is more pronounced and immediate.
Through our research, we found out that there is a big gap between the lived experiences of disability and its societal perception. For example, meet Amiko, who's a wheelchair user. People often tell her that she is too pretty to be on a wheelchair, as if beauty and disability can't exist together. Or Fiba, who uses a walking stick. People confidently assume that she can never be in a relationship and avoid topics of love and desire. At most, they say, "Who will ever marry you?" Or Raman, who lost his leg in an accident 5 years back. His mental and emotional well being is put to test when people tell him that his life is no longer worth living.
Although Amiko, Fiba, and Raman feel valued as an equal in close relationships, they feel the larger society can't look beyond their disability and completely dismisses their sexuality. We've learned that this happens because of two major challenges in India. Non disabled people have very few opportunities to interact with disabled people. In India, majority of schools do not enroll disabled people. Lack of accessible infrastructure in public spaces greatly limits the movement of the disabled. They want to go to the movies and restaurants, but they have very few options. Such low visibility fuels the misconception that disabled people lead dull and difficult lives.
And second, non disabled learn about disability from inauthentic and incomplete representations. In the few films and ads that do include disability, characters are stereotyped as goofy, villainous, or tragic, and are rarely ever shown in a desirable light. Common interactions with disability are limited to charity events, hospitals, or poor on the streets, where non disabled are in a privileged position of giving. This leads to the misconception that disabled always need to be taken care of. The lack of authentic interaction between disabled and non disabled reduces their perception in the society to just their disability.
Resisting desexualization starts with acknowledging the many dimensions of a disabled identity. Abiding by two famous disability rights mottos, "We are not broken, don't fix us," and "Nothing for us without us," we are working to create spaces for disabled people to express their sexual identities through authentic and sustainable platforms that make non disabled aware of their misconceptions about disability sexuality and increase social integration of the disabled.
We believe that with education and disability studies, with diverse representation of real life stories of disabled people, and with collaborations between disabled and non disabled, we can inch closer to a cultural shift towards fighting desexualization.
Imagine an online disability studies course that is co created with the disability community. It can include themes like history of disability, disability and inclusion, disability led design, and more. Indian disability activists, designers, and professors can take workshops, webinars, and hold discussions to teach disability theories and frameworks to students of all ages.
Our second idea is a video series documenting conversations and experiences of disabled people. Episodes about love, dating, friendship, and growing up can be curated by disabled themselves. Disabled comedians, artists, queer leaders, and feminists can be invited to collaborate in the videos to increase disability visibility.
And lastly, reflective facilitations between disabled and non disabled people that help in mutual learning and myth busting, spaces where they can ask questions and check their assumptions. Fun and light social events can help better social integration.
A step in any of these directions can help amplify the voices of the disabled community against desexualization.